After a night of intimacy, Petra and James wake up early in the morning. While Petra hurries off to class, James chooses to linger in bed a little longer. This decision leads to him oversleeping, and by the time he eventually wakes up, he's already running behind schedule. He dashes through the city as fast as he can until he reaches his philosophy class, where Mr. Zimmett initially contemplates not allowing him in. Eventually, he relents and opens the door. Today marks the last day of school, and Mr. Zimmett wants the students to share their favorite thought exercises. Chips brings up the infinite monkey theorem, which posits that given an infinite amount of time, a monkey with a typewriter will eventually type out the entire Hamlet. Jack brings up the trolley problem, which forces a choice between a train killing one person or four. They humorously adapt it into the obese man problem, introducing the option to push a corpulent man to halt the trolley. Georgina favors the ignorant bliss paradox. In this scenario, someone hangs off the highest tower in the city intentionally to test if their friends will help. However, the friends fear being pulled over themselves, so they step back. The person falls but survives, prompting reflection on whether it's better to know their friends wouldn't save them or if ignorance would be bliss. Zimmett decides on one last thought exercise to conclude the school year. The class must assume there's an impending atomic apocalypse and imagine a bunker that will provide shelter for a year. Zimmett paints a vivid picture, guiding everyone's imaginations to envision an area surrounded by nuclear explosions. He highlights the dilemma. There are supplies for only 10 people, while the class comprises 20 students. They must decide who gets in and who remains outside, with little time before the atomic radiation arrives. Georgina hesitates, likening the discussion to eugenics. But when Zimmett describes the gruesome and painful nature of dying from radiation, she reluctantly agrees to participate. Petra, staunch in her decision not to participate, stands up to leave, confident in her perfect grades that Zimmett can't easily affect. However, Zimmett plays a more sinister card and threatens to lower James' grades instead, potentially causing him to fail the class. With James' academic future on the line, Petra has no choice but to remain. Zimmett proceeds to distribute cards, each containing a randomly assigned profession for the thought exercise. He starts by revealing James' card, then coughs at the desk before handing one to Petra. He repeats this pattern for the rest of the students. The professions are diverse, ranging from harpist and wine auctioneer to astronaut and chemist. Toby tries to share that he's a published poet, but Zimmett abruptly shoots him, justifying it as a more humane fate compared to dying from radiation. According to Zimmett, a poet wouldn't serve any practical purpose in rebuilding humanity. Zimmett, a wild card with a hidden profession, explains his role in the exercise. Each student then defends their right to enter the bunker, and a vote is conducted. 9 individuals are deemed useful for survival, including Petra the structural engineer, James the farmer, Georgina the orthopedic surgeon, and others. 9 are swiftly voted out for not contributing essential skills. The final choice narrows down to Zimmett and Utami the opera singer. Petra is wary of the unpredictability of a wild card, but Jack argues that an opera singer is a luxury in this scenario. They decide to risk it with Zimmett, who might hold a useful secret. Zimmett emerges as the chosen one. As the group takes a brief 5 minutes to say their goodbyes, they reposition the desks to create an illusion of final conversations. Suddenly, gunshots echo, revealing Zimmett has mercilessly executed those left outside. Justifying his actions as humane, he leaves the group in shock. Petra confides in James that she no longer wants Zimmett in the bunker. They quickly devise a plan. While gathering plants, James discreetly shares his strategy with each member of the group. Once inside the bunker, they disable the external keypad and lock Zimmett out. They explore the bunker's rooms, finding an artificial garden, a day bed, a gym, and a library, all designed to combat depression during their confinement. That night, as everyone rests on cots, James and Petra meet on the larger bed, finding solace in each other's presence. As James drifts off to sleep, Petra ventures out to check on Zimmett, discovering him slowly succumbing to the radiation, a grim testament to his twisted exercise. In a tense moment, Zimmett produces a piece of paper claiming he alone possesses the exit code. The group is thrown into a debate, torn between trusting Zimmett or dismissing his claim. Ultimately, they choose to disregard him and attempt to endure the year in the bunker. The days prove excruciatingly monotonous, filled with menial tasks as they try to stave off boredom. Petra consistently checks on Zimmett's decomposing body, occasionally witnessing a stray dog nibbling on the remains. When the year finally draws to a close, the group readies themselves to exit, only to find Zimmett had been telling the truth. The door demands an exit code. Frustration sets in as they try various methods to break through the door, but all efforts prove futile. With their supplies dwindling, they make the somber decision to bring about their own end, seeking a more humane conclusion. Back in class, Zimmet announces the failure of the experiment and reveals his actual profession as a bunker builder. He discloses that he constructed the specific bunker and holds the exclusive knowledge of the exit code. The students express their desire for another attempt, this time envisioning a new location, Mont Bromo. Petra, keen-eyed, notices Zimmet making a beeline for a gun. It's then revealed that the cards conceal a second characteristic that may influence the votes. James, openly gay, is still accepted for his farming expertise, albeit with fewer votes. Georgina, who once contracted Ebola, is now excluded. Plum, the hedge fund manager who habitually carries gold, gains acceptance. Chips, despite being infertile, is retained for his carpentry skills. Petra, a structural and electrical engineer, secures her spot. Andy, with a rare life-threatening condition, is rejected. Poppy, unable to have children, is left out. Vivian, a fervent PETA supporter, is once again excluded. Jack, blessed with robust health, is accepted. Covey, a real estate agent and midwife, secures his place in the bunker. Parker, lacking an additional characteristic, is left out. Utami, multilingual but destined for a throat tumor, is excluded. Mitzi, boasting an IQ of 200, is left out again. Beatrice, creator of a bamboo-based fashion brand, meets the same fate as does Russell, an autistic harpist. Omacide, poised to become the first female Chief Justice, is saved. Bonnie, with an eidetic memory, retains her spot. Nelson, described as exceptionally kind, initially faces exclusion but is ultimately included to balance the group. Toby's attempt to share his characteristic is cut short by Zimmet's gunfire, a stark reminder that the code remains unknown. Georgina is handed the truck keys by Zimmet, prompting those left outside to scramble for safety. Tragically, the vehicle is caught in the ensuing explosion. The chosen ones rush towards the bunker, narrowly escaping. Their mundane routine resumes. Later that evening, Petra awakens to find James absent from his bed. She goes in search of him, stumbling upon him engaging in an intimate moment with Jack, who, as it turns out, is gay in real life. Petra, deeply hurt by the sight she stumbled upon, rushes out to inform the rest of the group about what she witnessed. This prompts a discussion on how they will go about procreating. Chips, being infertile, is excused from this responsibility. Jack and James, unable to feign intimacy with a woman, refuse to participate. Consequently, Bonnie is paired with Covey, and Omacide is paired with Nelson. In an act of vengeance against her boyfriend, Petra reluctantly agrees to be with Zimmet, disregarding James' claim that she still loves him. As explosions wreak havoc outside, the three couples engage in their intimate encounters. After 10 weeks with no pregnancies, Zimmet suggests changing partners, asserting that the girls should have multiple partners. Bonnie objects, emphasizing that logic should not override her consent. Zimmet leaves momentarily but returns brandishing a gun, threatening everyone except Bonnie to vacate the room. The group flees, but Jack manages to conceal himself around a corner. When Zimmet is momentarily distracted, Jack seizes the opportunity to tackle him, causing him to drop the weapon. Bonnie promptly seizes the gun, holding Zimmet at gunpoint. Despite the men's attempts to subdue Zimmet, he gains the upper hand over Jack. However, Jack retaliates by stabbing Zimmet in the ear with a pen. Devastated, Zimmet heads to the front door and inputs the code to open it, taking everyone down with him. The class has once again failed the exercise. James grows increasingly suspicious and questions Zimmet's motives for the exercise, referencing the peculiar cough Zimmet had when assigning him and Petra their roles. He also points out that Zimmet has not coughed since. Suddenly, James rushes to the desk, snatching the box and escaping Zimmet's grasp to unveil its secret. It turns out that the box contains concealed compartments, and James and Petra's cards have been tampered with, ensuring they would consistently receive the same results: gay farmer and double engineer. James demands an explanation for why Zimmet seems to harbor animosity towards him in particular. Zimmet brings up Plato's allegory of the cave, drawing parallels between James' perception of reality and the allegorical prisoner's limited understanding. Zimmet contends that the exercise is designed to challenge James about how his privilege may have inadequately prepared him for the real world. James remains skeptical, asserting that Zimmet deliberately chose a gay farmer role to prolong his suffering. In the midst of this heated exchange, Petra interjects, insisting that the exercise be conducted a third time, with James assuming the role of a florist. In this new imaginary scenario, they find themselves on an island, free from the impending apocalypse. As per routine, Zimmet heads to the bunker to arm himself. He hears a noise but dismisses it. Upon returning outside, Petra approaches him, offering a hug and expressing understanding of how challenging it has been for him. Subsequently, Petra implores the group to trust her judgment in selecting who will enter the bunker, assuring them she has a plan. In this iteration of the exercise, Petra takes charge of making the final decisions. She justifies her choices, explaining that Mitzi, as a genius wine auctioneer, would ensure everyone has a good time with an abundance of red and white wine. Beatrice, as a fashion designer, could boost self-esteem through well-designed clothing, potentially contributing to productivity and the preservation of civilization. Toby, revealed to be a champion poker player, is chosen to provide entertainment with his card skills. Russell is saved due to his autism, perceived by many as a unique gift. Georgina, who may not actually have Ebola, is brought in with the promise of prayers. Utami, despite her potential future muteness, is also saved as her singing could provide solace. Jack, chosen for his perfect genes, expresses dismay about being without a partner due to his orientation. However, in a surprising turn, Parker comes out of the closet, securing his spot. With only 2 slots remaining, Petra ultimately selects James. As the chosen ones enter the bunker, the remaining group members sit together as a united team. Throughout the selection process, Zimmet, visibly dissatisfied, continually lowers Petra's grade. However, his frustration reaches its peak when he witnesses the individuals he deems useless entering the bunker. In a desperate move, Zimmet reaches for his gun, only to discover it missing. Petra, who had covertly taken it during a prior interaction, returns it to him, revealing it to be unloaded. Petra then hands Zimmet 2 bullets, expressing a desire to spare him prolonged suffering. Suddenly, James intervenes, brandishing a rifle he had concealed. James, it turns out, had been the source of the noise within the bunker. Faced with imminent danger, Zimmet confesses that only he knows the exit code. However, Bonnie, with her perfect memory, had memorized it during the previous run. Defeated, Zimmet retreats. Despite Petra's desire to give the final spot to Bonnie, she declines. Chips ultimately takes the last spot. In a surprising twist, James is no longer gay in this version of the exercise. He implores Petra to join them, but she declines, expressing her intention to take a boat and try to escape the radiation zone. To her shock, Chips reveals he possesses the boat keys. Swiftly, Chips ushers Petra inside, swapping places with her before the door closes. As the rest of the group hurries towards the boat in an attempt to leave the island, Petra continues narrating the thought exercise. Despite the harrowing circumstances, they manage to find moments of joy during their year in the bunker, thanks to cards, wine, Shakespearean performances, and original poetry. James expresses his love for Petra, but she hesitates to reciprocate with the same words. The group repurposes broken machinery in the bunker to craft a harp, and Russell provides enchanting melodies while Utami lends her voice, creating magical evenings. When the year concludes, the group emerges from the bunker, only to discover that the bombs never fell. Zimmet asserts that they are doomed, lacking the technical skills to survive on the island. However, Petra counters that while their lives may be short, they will be lived in contentment and readiness to face whatever comes. Suddenly, a rocket plummets onto the beach. James prepares to detonate it, but Zimmet intervenes, firing a shot to stop him. It turns out that Zimmet had discovered a cave and managed to survive the past year by scavenging supplies there. Zimmet, desperate to prevent what he views as an irrational act that would end humanity, threatens to shoot James with his last bullet. However, the other survivors move one by one to form a protective shield around him. Seizing the opportunity, they activate the detonation button, causing the bomb to obliterate the entire island. Back in the classroom, Zimmet is left ashamed of the latest exercise. Chips interjects, offering his own version of the conclusion. According to Chips, the boat manages to navigate far enough to avoid the explosion. He finds himself the sole male amidst 6 women. The group ponders the fates of the other 3 males, with Chips reporting that Covey drowned, Nelson suffered a barracuda attack, and Andy met an unfortunate encounter with a palm tree. Although Chips is infertile, procreation isn't entirely off the table. In this ending, Chips rotates to a different girl each day. After concluding the exercise, Zimmet remains in the classroom. Petra confronts him, accusing him of attempting to punish James through the exercise. To her surprise, Zimmet confesses to having an affair with Petra and believes that James is beneath her. Petra emphasizes that intelligence isn't the only determining factor and affirms her love for James. She leaves Zimmet with a final kiss and departs. Alone in the school, Zimmet contemplates various scenarios, ultimately leading to a gunshot echoing through the building.